According to my Verizon time, it says it's 7 o'clock. Are we all set? We're all set? All rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, greetings and thank you for all turning out tonight. Joe, as we've established, he's in Philly in a meeting, so. He flew out.
With cheesesteak?
He didn't say. He said he had to go down for a meeting. He didn't say what kind of meeting it was, but. So I've called this morning meeting to order, and we've done a pledge, and we're going to switch the agenda around slightly to go to, and I gotta find it into my packet, and address CJ's Holler license, application for license, vendor license. I'd asked for a motion.
Make said motion.
Randy made the motion. Second?
Second.
Ziggy seconded. Any comments from the council or any discussion? Peter?
I would just simply say that these folks are a tremendous asset to the community. They're very responsible in terms of dealing with the waste and all the variations of how that has to get handled, hazardous materials and things like that. And I wholeheartedly support their application.
We're still having a little problem with traffic. Week ago, Saturday, I sat in line for about 10 minutes while everybody tried to clear the entrance. Is there a way that you can get them more forward towards your post?
We pull them up as much as we can. We encourage cars to pull up. We do make them aware that and our guides know we want to pull them up. There is room for 2 lanes to get out of recycling, so that should leave. So we do try to actively stay to the extent that we're allowed to, because we are also not, we're not really,
Right.
can't tell them where they can't stop the car. We can tell them where we'd like them to stop it.
But it does get congested on that outside, on the outfeed on that.
There are occasions we try very hard to mitigate that, and I did see you go through that day. I was aware that there was a blockage. I was clearing it just as fast as I could. I did not think that we had stalled traffic for 10 minutes there, but.
I know that 2 weeks ago,
I've been there too.
there was an issue being able, and everybody had to sit at recycling, but it wasn't 10 minutes. It was a matter of probably 2 or 3 that we just kind of sat while, and I realized, and I think the only way that we're going to relieve that is rethink how things are laid out and see if we can do something different, move things around somewhere. We have a lot of real estate in that area, and if we talk about it and come up with a plan and ask you to work with us and try something different.
I'm going to start pulling the trailer up a little bit further and spread my trucks out a little bit more. Maybe that'll help the people move up.
I have no complaint with your service.
You can try that, but I'm just wondering if you start pulling up on that sidewalk, if it's going to start doing some damage on the sidewalk due to the weight limit on that. So I'll talk to Mel again. We had a couple different ideas of even relocating, or I had an idea, and I talked to Jimmy briefly, and I'm going to see if I can get it back on the table again about relocating either recycling or you guys somewhere down in the sewer treatment plant area, so that it can be a pass through, and so when you loop back, you don't loop back on the other business or on the other issue. So if you're recycling, you can go strictly to recycling. If you're going for trash or whatever, you can go so it's 2 different worlds, and when you come out of there, there's really no, there's the yield sign that's going to be the only thing that slows them down. So. No problem. We can do it.
Well, I just want to make sure that I'm totally satisfied with the service. And I agree with Pete. It's just, it gets a little wild at once.
Yep. Not a problem. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you, and looking forward to another year of good business. Thank you, Randy.
You gotta get a different colored outfit there, Christina. We gotta have something like fluorescent yellow too, just to offset the orange ones.
That's like something other than the safety orange.
I can see you from our house. I know it's you.
It's getting close to Christmas, I mean,
I have a hat. for
See
it.
ya.
well, we're not looking just for a hat, I think we're looking for a whole outfit. How's that? You're very spirited with your attire, and we enjoy it.
We try.
Okay, warrants have gone around, and I take it everybody's signed them. Does anyone have any questions on the warrants? Hearing none, I ask for a approval of the city council meetings minutes for October 23rd, 2012. Rennie made the motion,
Second.
and Bill seconded it. Omissions, corrections, errors? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Review budget report. Mel?
The budget, actually, I think it looks in great shape at this point. We've completed 4 months. The budget in front of me, in essence, represents almost 4.5. I can tell you that relative to police, one of the things that I do as one of our police officers, Adam, is paid via a COPS grant, and basically what we do is we pay him throughout the month, and then at the end of the month, we do a journal entry charging his base wages, medical insurance, the health reimbursement pool, workers' compensation, disability insurance is all, there's a journal entry that pulls all of those costs out of the budget and over to the COPS grant. And so one of the things is, if you don't look at the police department budget on the last day of the month, the numbers get skewed, because just as soon as you have a week into the next month, those COPS grant wages are showing up in the regular budget. So the point is when you look at the police budget and you see the chief at 38.46%, which is right on the money, and then you have salary straight time at 38.84, which appears that it is a little over budget. However, it includes one payroll, right, Joan? It includes 2 payrolls.
I did today's payroll.
Okay, and includes so it includes 2 payrolls. So the point is that, let's say we're gonna have 2 more payrolls in November, there's either gonna be 4 or 5 payrolls throughout. When we get to the end of November, there'll be a journal entry that's done, and that number gets pulled back. So I just wanted to let you know that we put an X on the calendar, that as of the end of October, from a straight time standpoint, we were under budget. Not by a lot, but we were under budget, all right? I also can tell you that 2 or 3 weeks ago, is the first time I've seen it since I come back to work for the city, but we actually had a week with no police overtime. 0. What do you think of that, Randy?
That's something else.
Okay, because it doesn't happen, all right? So anyway, we had, we budget, I think if you take the $30,000 that we budget, basically, 52 weeks times about $600 equals $30,000. From a budgetary standpoint, that's what we budget, whatever that equals, $590 a week. So obviously, when you have a week of 0, you gain, all right? But I can tell you, it can go south in a hurry. But anyway, I think Randy asked me to guarantee him something, and I would never guarantee him anything, but what I did guarantee him is that we would try as hard as we possibly could to work within the constraints of this budget. So I can tell you, straight time, as long as we stay on this course and people aren't sick and whatever, we're fine.
No overtime pledge?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. So that's that one.
I see you're using a later date report than some of us have.
Well, this one's because I just did it. I ran it, because I actually like to get the payroll, and there was like 12 more bills, I think, that got paid late this afternoon. And so I transfer that information to the general ledger. So the report that I have in front of you is
Real time.
yeah, it's, it was at 6:43. So yours, for instance, your budget doesn't include the electric bill.
You're no fun to pick on anymore, Mel.
That's too serious, yeah.
I'm gonna pick on it.
Oh,
Go
sure,
for it.
okay.
Floor's yours.
Police overtime.
Yeah,
The question I asked a couple times ago that we discussed, when the police, any of them, go outside to provide services, except for the DRE guy, they go outside of Vergennes to provide services that are non-emergent in nature. My question was, were there any contracts associated with that, so that wherever we are going pays us for the time as opposed to us paying for it? And I think about the chief and the dog on a drug situation going out, something that's non-emergent, not planned as part of a big,
right.
a big, and it's not just the time of going out and doing that, it's the follow-up, because I presume they're involved in the arrest, so that means court time potentially down the road. And I'm firmly of the mind that we should have a contract with those places so that we get paid by them for services that we're paying for out of the taxpayers' money.
Well, I don't know who they are that you're talking about, but obviously,
Yeah.
there is unwritten mutual aid out there in the police. So like if
Yep.
Bristol needs help, we help them. If we need help, they help us. There is no
Right.
written contracts
Right.
that I'm aware of relative to mutual aid agreement. I will tell you, I've had more conversations about this dog, all right?
Yeah.
Because I think that, and it's absolutely true that departments most don't have a dog.
Right.
All right, but they have a need for a dog.
Right.
And like, let me give you, because George and I had a long conversation about Bristol, okay? Bristol does not have a dog.
Yep.
The backup to Bristol is not the Vergennes Police Department. The
Right.
backup is state police. State police has lots of dogs.
Yep.
All right, so when the Bristol Police Department is in need of a dog,
Yep.
their go-to is the state of Vermont. That's their first go-to. Now, let's say for whatever reason, this person can't go, this person can't
Yep.
go, this person can't go. There is a telephone call to George. All right, now, if the dog is needed for some kid, some 3-year-old that's off in the woods or whatever, George is gonna go to that, all right? But, if somebody stops a car and they want a dog to sniff it, the answer should be no, because there's no.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be no.
Yeah.
The answer could be yes, and it's gonna cost you his time and money, so Vergennes doesn't pay for that.
Right.
That's my point.
Right.
I'm not for a minute suggesting that we don't cooperate
Yep.
as part of an area police force. All I'm saying is, I don't want to pay for George to go with a dog to Bristol to a traffic stop where there's a suspicion of drugs.
Right.
Without us getting compensated. That's my, kind of my bottom line in this.
Okay,
And it sounds like there aren't any agreements with anybody out there for that sort of thing.
there are certainly no written agreements about
Okay.
the dog.
Okay.
Okay, there is obviously agreements relative to the DRE.
Yes,
Okay,
no,
that's a
all.
give, those bills,
We've
just
talked
bill
about
it and
that.
they pay.
No problem.
Okay, no, there's no issues
Yeah,
there.
no, yeah.
The dog is, because I've talked to George, I
Yeah.
said, George, really, we have a dog.
Yeah.
All right? And we should not be fulfilling all of the department's needs just because we have a dog. They don't have a dog, that's just the way it is. And so, I tend to agree that if I hate to pick on Bristol, all right? But Bristol
Go ahead.
doesn't have a dog.
Yeah,
All right? Now, set aside the 3-year-old kid that's lost in the woods. Just set that aside. We're talking about somebody stopped and you really
Yeah.
need a dog to find some drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
If Bristol made I don't want to pick up my kid, but whether or not they made a decision or whatever, they don't have a dog. Okay, and if they need dog services, that sliver, if you will, I don't know
Yeah.
about sliver, how big it is, but anyway, that should be proposed as a contractual deal.
Yeah.
All right?
That's
If
all it's
state police is their go-to for, because I can tell you, I told George, I don't want to be in the dog business. I really,
Well, he probably doesn't either.
I don't think he does.
Right.
Okay, because I just don't want to be, because I can tell you there isn't any money in it, because even if we're paid money and George goes, I got to backfill the shift, okay? So there's no, unless we can bill him out at $800 an hour, that'd be okay, but you're not. You're just going to bill him out at cost, so there's no money in it.
I've talked to George, and he says we really haven't found any big money yet. So, the payback is like playing the lottery,
You're talking about forfeitures.
as far as you find a bunch of cash or anything. Says-
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, no, well, it wouldn't. I
A
mean,
few
if it
drugs here and
happened- If it happened in Bristol, it'd be Bristol's
Right,
bust, and they'd get the money, I
Right,
presume.
Yeah.
right.
so,
I think it's a legitimate concern. I'm not sure what the protocol is, not having any experience. I think George should be aware of the
Yeah.
concern.
He has been aware of it.
And if he knows that, and I see him periodically, and I'm more than happy to kind of mention it. But as long as he's aware of it, we keep an eye on it, and if it seems like it's something that's gonna be a bigger problem, I think we have to deal with it, but.
This all came from one week, where the thing that triggered it was.
Well, you mentioned like a month
one
ago,
story.
wasn't it?
was-
Yeah.
in one week, it was like 3
Oh, yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
And
Right.
two of the 3 were justified, I guess.
I will tell you that Shelburne does have a dog, just so that you know. I may have misspoke at one of the meetings where I said
Yeah.
Shelburne doesn't have a dog and they go to Burlington, whatever. Shelburne has a dog. And that dog wasn't available, and they did go to some other,
agencies.
canine handlers, and they came up dry and came to George. So, it really, I'm not gonna dispute it. It was in the police log 3 times, all right? So, I can't dispute that. But I think that that's a rarity.
Yep.
All right? And as long as it's maintained that we're not in the business, I really don't wanna be in the business.
Okay.
We're not that there's a fence wall around the city of Vergennes, but, I tell you, nobody outside the city of Vergennes is paying the bills.
That's
to
right.
The police department.
That's the bottom line.
Right.
Peter, my wife watches the meetings, and you struck a chord with her of interest, and so she got on and with the readers and wanted to find out a whole bunch of information, legal,
okay.
privacy and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And there are HIPAA regulations regarding the readers that they have to comply with, so they're,
HIPAA,
yes.
Yeah.
health regulations?
Yes, yep. Because it all can tie back to license plate, other things,
yeah,
license.
disability plates.
The whole thing. So there is a whole bunch of regulations that protect, that you can't.
Picking up a plate at a doctor's office?
I'll get in touch with her.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, so
Okay,
she
cool.
found it actually interesting what the protection was, because she
Yeah.
was kind of feeling like, isn't that a invasion of somebody's privacy to a certain degree, so it has to be protected.
Okay, thanks.
Mel, question to you. The grant that police officer is on,
Yeah.
what year are we in? Are we still in year 1, or are we in year 2?
The grant,
It's a 4-year grant, right? The 4th year we own them, or is it a 5-year grant?
it's a 3-year grant that started September 1, 2011, and it expires August 31st, 12, 13, 14. The grant expires August 31st, 2014, and the grant agreement requires a commitment that position, if you will, not be vacated for a year, all right?
Yeah, I was aware of
And
that, but
I
I just
will,
sort
I
of,
will tell you that I've run a bunch of calculations, and it's a lesson to me to slow down just a little bit. I can tell you that the COPS grant doesn't quite cover all of the things that I anticipated. Now, the point being is, relative to base salary, it was calculated using just base pay. Well, the fact of the matter is that police officers work on holidays, and there's a premium, and so that wasn't figured in. The medical insurance was a little short. So I've run some calculations, and if I did this correctly, I think that the grant is going to fall about $28,000 short when we get to towards closer to, obviously, August 31st, 2014. However, there is a provision to apply to amend the grant, all right? And I got that stack of paper on my desk. It has to go through 3 levels of review for $28K. I'll chase it, yeah, chase the $28K.
Okay, good, thank you. Just want to know where we were at. Zeke?
While we're talking about the police department, is there any way that when we hire somebody or somebody leaves that we could be, let's just mention it here at city council? Because there's been times people will say something to me and I didn't know anything about it. And just say, oh, we're gonna have a new person or somebody's leaving, just to keep us up to date.
I remember you bringing that up, and there's been no changes in the
Okay,
roster
but I
of the police
just,
department.
That's a good thing.
Okay, good. Just remembering to do that is the next thing. So, all right, any other questions, comments on the budget? Hearing none, let's move on to committee reports and goals. I gotta get my cheat sheet out, people. Anything from Mr. Bill?
No, I mean, I've really been taking an interest in talking to Mel quite a bit about the whole funding of the police station thing and some, creative options and whatever. I think that's what, now's a good time to spend some of my, time and effort on that sort of thing. So, we'll see where it goes in the next few months, but.
A general comment to everybody is that I've been approached by a few citizens, not a lot. Their concerns about the so-called number that this thing is going to take to happen. And I try to reassure them that they really need to get all the information. There's going to be a vote on it. So let's get the statistics, the facts, and then make a decision whether it's something that can be afforded or not. There's a bunch of moving targets here, a bunch of different funding sources, and until they hear all that information, we would not want anybody to prejudge the outcome of a building based on lack of information.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
Respectfully to all those that are listening, please give this a fair chance, hear it out, because as we have, as all the council's members, and I think everybody at the table did agree, this is and we voted it as a working plan. A working plan is a guideline. It is not something that is cast in stone. If something needs to be changed, it will be, okay? So, and we will have our informational meeting on the next council meeting.
27?
27th. Okay, Ziggy, what's happening?
Not much right now. The Halloween thing over at, over at the Legion, got some of the seniors involved. They were walking around, thought it was pretty nice and stuff, but
So seniors, okay,
I did go to a meeting in Ferrisburg and just sat, just listened. To see what was going on.
no,
yeah.
no. Did they ask you what the?
No, I don't think they recognized me because of this.
Oh.
And I kind of sat back.
We'll have to check with Chet and see if he's got you logged into the minutes there somewhere. Okay, great. Randy?
Well, I've had some success with Job Corps about the senior snow shoveling program.
Yeah, and I let the ball slip. Go ahead, keep talking.
They are willing to do it, and we just need to contact Dennis Lambert.
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 Lambert,
Lambert.
Lambert.
No, it's D.
Lambert.
Lambert?
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep going.
I haven't, the fishing derby's kind of quiet right at the moment. Obviously, they don't need anything because they're not contacting me, and I've availed myself to them several times. And when the farmer's market gets up and rolling again, I'm trying to get back in the loop with them so that I can attend a few of their meetings.
Okay. All right, ready? Anything?
Well, the police station committee is not active at the moment because everything's really in the council's hands as far as decisions are concerned. I guess the only question, I guess, would be for Mal, whether you think we need to have any kind of a meeting prior to the informational meeting. Is there anything that we need to be preparing for, or is that something between the architects and you that would be?
Well, one of the things, just to talk a little bit about the meeting, I'm not having architects or anybody coming here at this meeting. You know, obviously George will be here to give, you know, some information about the building. To me, you know, hopefully, I'm hoping that there is a lot of people that show up and give some information. And then, so I think that the committee should meet after that meeting. I don't
And kind
know.
of digest whatever was
Yeah.
said.
You know, I mean, there's been just a little bit of fine tuning of the floor plan. You know, I think, you know, when we get to talking about the site, you know, there might be a need for the committee to, you know, Zig and I have talked about the site, and, you know, I'm gonna leave it with you, in that regard, relative to land acquisition and this type of thing. I mean, if you think that the committee would help, but certainly they should meet right after the informational meeting, assuming that there may be some direction given.
Okay.
I've been thinking about the plan, which I think is a great plan. What I'm a little concerned with is that it's a plan by a firm that we don't have a contract with. That it is, I don't think there should be any type of quid pro quo with, you know, doing free work for no compensation. Generally speaking, in my experience with something like this, you do an RFP for people to compete for that planning bit of it, and do one bid for schematics, so you can then get estimates, and then give that bid to that architect, and then do a bid for the construction of it. And I guess I'm not sure where we're at with Breadloaf. They've done some revisions, their design build, who's representing the town or the city, as opposed to themselves as being architect builder. And I know I've talked to Mel about the construction of the building. If we, you know, get a bond issue, and, you know, that will have to go out to bid, there's no question about it. But I want to make sure that we understand our relationship with Breadloaf at this point.
It should be somehow.
I mean, I like their plan, there may be a better plan out there that we don't know about.
Yeah, and at some point, you know, I know that they're doing stuff for nothing, or so they say, but I agree with you, Bill, that we need something in writing at some point, because like you say, in the best interests of the taxpayers, if we want to do what they call a design build, we can take the concept that George has had in his head, put that to paper somehow, and then throw that out for other firms to look at that, and might be able to, the day job, we did that. We had a concept that we met with a couple different architects and designers and said, this is what our thoughts are. They went back, got 3 prices, and the building's being built at the lowest, you know, by the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
So,
But I think we want to look at you know, not only construction costs, but architectural costs too.
yeah,
Make sure that we're
we got to talk about, you know, the insulation, you know, the ratings, the R factors, and all the other, you know, the windows and anything as far as heat loss and that sort of thing. What level of heat retention the building's got to have. You know, that's one of the things, one of the questions that came up from a citizen is, you know, we're hearing, you know, X number of dollars to build this. Well, how about maintaining it, heating, and all electric, you know, all that stuff. And yes, that's part of an operation, that's separate building, but let's get that aside and figure out what that is. But I think that is something we can ask for in the design, you know, it's got to have certain level of efficiencies to the building.
Oh, sure,
So-
yeah,
so,
oh, yeah,
you know.
yep.
So I think.
Well,
that's it.
Bill, there is no contract with Breadloaf.
I know.
There is no bill, anything, you know, in Mike McLaughlin's words, they're doing this as being a good neighbor to the city of Vergennes.
Yeah.
Okay?
And
Now,
I
are they
respect
interested?
that.
Are they interested in working for the city of Vergennes? Yes, of course they are, all right? And I think, you know, I think that we're real fortunate to be able to, get what we've gotten out of them, obviously on their nickel, because, I mean, conceivably, you could spend tens of thousands of dollars, as prepared as you want to get prepared, you know, like in the case of Middlebury, relative to their fire station upgrades, you know, they opted to go to the voters and have the voters approve somewhere in the vicinity of $250,000 to do planning. Now, I think in the case of Middlebury, I'm not close enough to it, you're probably closer than me, but that's a complicated project.
Sure, yeah.
You know, you can't just say $2 million. I mean, you know, to try to figure out the size and this and putting an addition, that is complicated. You know, you're not gonna get somebody to do that for free. You know, or your estimate's gonna have to have 35% contingencies in them, you know? Relative to this, I think this is pretty simple for Bread Loaf to do. I mean, this is a building.
Yeah, it is,
They've
but
done
you know, there are still
Colchesters.
contingencies built into this.
It
and
is,
there
yeah.
are architectural fees built into the
Yep.
total cost, and
Yep.
all of that has to be taken into consideration. I think transparency is the biggest thing.
Right.
Because we're working for the taxpayer.
Right, and I think it's do we need to spend more money? Let's say that we really are looking at a March vote. Let's just assume that we
Well,
are.
timing is gonna be difficult
It's
if
going to be
that's
very,
the case.
it's very, very difficult. And
Yeah.
let's say that there is a feeling that Bread Loaf's estimates are off, measurably off, in either direction. Because you can't have them off, you don't want them off in either direction, all right? So, you know, maybe that might be something that the committee might want to do is, you know, meet with Bread Loaf. I mean, the committee's never met with Bread Loaf. You know, George and I met with Bread Loaf, you know, to get at a point of thinking, listen, you know, we may need another set of eyes to look at these estimates.
Or even enter into an agreement with them where they complete a schematic set of drawings that the public can look at, that we can look at and pay them for.
Yeah.
And those then go, we get an estimate based on that, then that goes to bid if the bond passes.
Right.
You know, I'm not, because
Well, I
it's
get
not
that.
a complicated building.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that it's a competitive process.
Well, I can tell you, it is, you know, obviously, Mike McLaughlin, he called us, okay? He wanted to do something, and they've actually fulfilled what he agreed to do, all right? And, you know, Mike probably, he's been around the block a few times, and I can tell you, I don't hesitate to call and say, listen, you're gonna need to do this, get rid of this, do this, rechange the estimate. You know, I hope there's no hard feelings on Mike. I don't think that there is, but I try to be a little careful because I'm you know,
It's their dime.
it's their
Yeah,
dime.
Yep, no, understood.
But I actually would have no problem at some point in paying them. I mean, they don't, you know, there's a limit, you know, I mean, they've got, you know, they have their CAD person and their estimator. I mean, it isn't just Mike and Mike McLaughlin and Chris Huston. I mean, there's some people behind the scenes, so there's some billable hours back there that's invested. So I think that, you know, I can certainly have a conversation with him, but also, you know, I think, you know, it's the timing, you know, let's say that we have a vote and this gets approved. I think then the next thing is the committee is really charged with saying, okay, how are we gonna do this? Are we gonna do it with an architect and bid? Are we gonna do a design build? I mean, that's the next step.
Yeah.
But I see that as being after the vote. It sounds, yeah, would have been nice to have all of the drawings all done, you know, sure, but, you know, that cost a lot of money.
I know
mean,
it
I
does,
think we
yeah,
gotta,
yeah.
you know, we gotta know whether or not the voters will support a project.
Well, I think if the committee wanted to meet with them,
Yep.
ask questions, I think that would be a good next step, just so that
But I
everyone's
think-
on the same page.
I think you could either have meet before or after, but I think you.
After we've gotten some public input
Yeah.
to see where things are going,
Yeah.
then I think
So
we should.
Yep.
that committee should make particular special notes that night, because Joan probably won't have her minutes available to you by the time, hopefully you guys would meet. if we're gonna keep this thing rolling, so. Nope, very good. Anything else, Rennie?
Yeah, I met with Tara Brooks, and she's going to be arranging a time for me and her and Kevin. Yeah.
Rooney?
Rooney.
Age,
problem.
must be age. To meet to kind of discuss any possibility of new economic initiatives, because that was part of my goal stuff.
You got $3,500 you can get for me? I got one for you. Just need $3,500.
We must talk.
Yes, we must talk. It would help.
So we haven't had that meeting yet, but she's in the process of arranging it.
Money can get you most anything. Okay, so if we can chat at some point. Okay, that was good. Gonna jump back to Randy's thing about the Job Corps, but the question goes to Joan. Joan, how did we handle that last year? Did we give you the contact information and you made the call to Job Corps?
Yeah, I actually emailed them, that's
Okay.
all I would do. Someone would call me, I would
Okay.
get their name, their address, email
have
it to them, and they were on it.
I have that information and I will get it to you.
Okay.
Okay?
'Cause it's
So
a
the
new-
people should call City Hall during working hours.
Yeah.
If not, we could leave this information, I'll put it on the website so that they can go on our website if they have a computer and look up so they can call or make contact direct.
Right, Dennis gave me his
Yep, I have all that.
cell phone number and
Yep.
his office number and his email address, and I think actually he would prefer a call
Yeah.
rather than an email.
Oh, I sent email to 3 different people, all on one.
Yeah,
Everyone
he's-
got copied in case someone's out.
He's the only contact.
He's a lone.
Okay,
Well, I can
Well,
tell
thank
you from using her time, she doesn't have time to make a telephone call, leave a message, wait for a call back. If it does, it's just
I'm at
on
the
her plate,
bank, I'm-
off her plate. That's,
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
the
Understood.
deal.
That's
Okay.
fine, but that's,
Yep,
because it worked great last year. I'd email them, and I was going home one night, and they were all there shoveling that driveway, and I thought, well, it's working.
that's good.
And it's
Let's-
available
let's-
for handicap and elderly.
Yes. Let's hope we don't have to use it.
Yeah. I'm for
I
it.
don't know about that. Okay, anything else, Rennie? Thank
No.
you for letting me jump in. Mr. Peter?
Nothing, no updates with the exception that Joan sent me another contact to put on my list
Good.
today of, it was a grant, right? It came on my iPhone and I couldn't read it,
Oh,
and I didn't get back to my computer.
I forget what it is, but, oh, it's funding that's available for
Yeah.
people with weatherization of their
Yeah.
homes and stuff. So it was just a contact,
Yeah.
like if you run into those people.
Yep.
Okay. Ms. Joan, anything happening as far as your goals going?
No, nothing. We had elections and taxes, and we have done nothing but.
And any comments on how you feel the elections went this year?
I think it went great. We had over 175 absentees, which helped immensely with the population in here. So it didn't seem like we had 1,132 voters, which was over 72% turnout, which is huge for us. But it did not seem the craziness I have felt in the past. It just, you didn't feel that congestion. It stayed steady and backed up at times, but the only other negative in it all is a lot of people come in here thinking the polls open at 7 or 8 and were angry that they weren't because now they had to go to Burlington. I only know of one person that totally missed out, but other people had to cancel plans in order to come back to vote.
And this has been this way for a long time as far as these are the hours?
Well, because of
And-
our
and-
city charter, you
and-
know,
yeah.
it used to be like 10 to 6. And we would be dumping the ballots and counting, and someone would come in at 20 after 6, and it's like, no, we're closed. And they're like, well, the radio says you can vote to 7. Well, our charter said 6, so I closed. So we changed it years ago. You were probably
There
still at the
became, there was
city.
actually a law passed that was, created the uniform closing time, so
At
that
7 p.m.
regardless of it, that actually typically charter prevails, but it actually overrode a charter. So it's
Yeah.
uniform in Vermont at 7 PM.
So
It's
at
on the
that-
front end that municipalities have some flexibility. However, in the city's instance, we don't have total flexibility. You know, and Joe and I haven't had a long-winded conversation about this, but it's my opinion, yes, our charter says 9 to 7. That's what the charter says, and the charter is very specific about the annual meeting or special meetings. That's what it's about. And therefore, you know, I think that legally, the Vergennes Board of Civil Authority could schedule hours that are different from the charter, okay? Now, however, because one of the votes at this meeting dealt with the VUHS bond vote, there's an argument that vote was constituted a special meeting, and therefore, the polling hours for the bond vote had to jive with the city's charter at 9 to 7. And so this year, you didn't have that option, all right? So, you know, one of the last thing we want to do is start confusing people.
Absolutely.
Okay, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe that's something, it's really weird it's a little weird to have it so embedded in our charter, but maybe that's something, see, one of the things I mentioned to you, Joan, at some point, it's really the Board of Civil Authority's call. It's not your call, my call. It's some of these people's calls, but it's up to the Board of Civil Authority. That's something that the Board of Civil Authority
Should work
ought
on, really
to
throw
talk about
around.
it, and because I can tell you, I think you can open as early as 5 AM.
We can override what's in the charter?
5:30.
If you're having the general election, if you're just having the general election and there's no other ballots going on out there, and it's just a general election,
Well, you got your justices. That's it.
it's not, that's not a charter, it's not a
Yeah,
charter
yeah,
thing. I mean, if you read that section, of the charter, that's about our polling hours, it's very specific to the annual meeting in March. It's very driven. It's not, it doesn't cast the hours across everything. It just doesn't. And, you know, maybe, you know, like I say, let's start with the meeting of a Board of Civil Authority and see what their feeling is, because I can tell you, if people, you can open at 5 AM, all right? And if we can get 6 people to set their alarm and donate their time, it's fine. It's fine with me, but it really, you know.
The other thing too is, can they get absentee ballots the day of the election?
Not the day
The
of.
day of election?
Not the day of.
No.
No, they can come into our office and vote right up to the day before.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a loophole where they could actually pick up something, vote it, and return it later that day, but they can't.
No.
No.
Okay, nope, that doesn't work. I was just looking for a potential solution to resolve some of their concerns, but,
Yeah, we can
we'll-
deal with that at a
yeah,
BCA.
Yeah, we're not gonna consume this meeting in that. Okay, anything else, Joan?
Nope.
Mr. Mel?
Yeah, one thing Peter didn't mention, he didn't want to, he was being modest. Peter and I actually met, and we went through half of the personnel policy. That must have been a memorable meeting. I thought we covered a lot of ground. But anyway, we did meet, we made it to page 11, I think it was 10 or 11 of a 21 or 2-page document. We haven't scheduled another meeting, and really it's more on me, because I actually was only prepared for 11 pages.
We went to page 11 because Mel had prepared page
Yeah,
11.
I blamed it on, I was busy, I got a 2 o'clock
Yeah,
meeting, but anyway, so Peter and I, we do have to, we will have another meeting in that regard. Relative to my multi-town thing, I have taken Springfield off my list. I don't pretend to know everything about Vermont, but I didn't realize that Springfield's population is over 9,000. Yeah, I pulled it off the police chief's thing.
Does it have a big surrounding area?
I don't know, but I believe that's what it said, and therefore that's outside, and so I'll be sticking with the other 4 towns, which I think is Newport, Pittsford, Brandon, and somebody else, I can't remember. So anyway, it's shrunk just a little bit, Mike. So that's where I'm at on my
Good.
not day-to-day stuff.
You think Mel and some of these other people are long-winded? Now it's my turn. Okay. These maps are expensive. Let me see, I think I got enough. Let's see, I gotta have 1, 2,
Could have two over here.
yeah, I got, they're sticking together.
Okay.
3. I'll keep one, but I'll give one to you after, Joan. I know email from Joe Kloppenstein was the fact that, and he just wants to give credit where credit is due here. Middlebury College students are working on a senior project, and what they're trying to do is look for at Vergennes in our walkability and our rec path possibilities. So what they've done is that they've taken on one of their projects is they took a GPS from the college geological department, and they mapped out the rail trail. And Joe's hoping to get in contact with Carreras and see if we can get some sort of a right-of-way established across their property. But this gives you a very pictorial sighting of where it starts. And if you start at the lower left-hand on the blue line, that intersection is at the intersection of Comfort Hill and McDonough Drive. And it continues as it goes upwards, as you look at the print, goes over, and the gray box that we're going around up there beyond number 7 is actually the new Velco station, okay? And there is some concerns of, the ultimate goal is to get it to the park and ride, but as Mel wrote in an email, it's very doubtful that the railway is going to allow us access to a pedestrian path across the railroad tracks.
It's extremely expensive. They'll allow it, but you have to have the cross arms in order to protect people, and it's.
Not at their expense either.
I think
So-
it's in Ferrisburg anyway.
It's in Ferrisburg.
It's in Ferrisburg, so Ferrisburg has to come out. Hey, they got our train station, so I mean, what the heck? So,
If you're a trade.
yep. So if anybody's gonna recycle these prints, please recycle them back in my hands, and I'll hold on to them until we have further use. I'd prefer that they don't get in the recycling, because they will come in handy. So, Andy, would you like a copy of this? Sure. You may have one? Okay, very good. And again, Joe wanted mentioned that all this work was done by the college students, a big effort on their part, and really appreciate what they have done and they continue to do. That is one thing. The other thing is, like we have mentioned in meetings before, and I do not need these back, transparency, it's what it's all about. Okay? Haunted factory, forest, warehouse, I'll share that with you, Mel. I think you've already seen that.
Yeah, we processed the
This
check.
is kind of a printout of expense, donations, what the totals were. And it all nets down to the haunted warehouse group turned $601.30 over to the city to be used for recreation. And we've talked to Mel if we needed some funding in a future year to get started on something, we would do the same. But this year, we haven't done much for people in the past. Last year, we got $1,000 out of the Chamber of Commerce to give to, I'll say Jackman Fuels, but it was not for Jackman Fuels, it was for heating assistance program. So this year, we thought, because there's been so much involvement with some of the kids, some of the different groups since the beginning of this, it would be nice to kind of spread a little bit of money around. So we recommended, and Mel wrote the checks because we want the city actually have the money to So there's a path, and you can see where everything is. $300 went to Jackman's Fuels for heating. I did talk to Tom, and there will be a letter going to Tom and requesting that if at all possible, it's not a lot of money, but the $300 is used for senior citizens. And then $300 was to the Lions Club. They were very beneficial the first year. They put in a ramp at no charge to the group or the Kennedy brothers, and that ramp is still in the building. And so there's that. There is $275 going to the Boys and Girls Club and $50 going to project graduation. And Wind has donated his building a couple years in a row, and so we're giving him a gift certificate. And I hate to say this because he's my son-in-law, but Alex actually allowed us to steal some of his farm plastic because we ran short on plastic, and the stuff was not cheap. So he's going to get a gift certificate as well. So there it is, transparency. Other things that have been happening, Pumpkin the Parks, our donations this year, we rounded it up to for the pumpkin donuts we rounded up to $57. Turned that over to the city. I attended some of the things that I've been doing is I attended the ribbon cutting for the men's quarters at Linda's and wished her the best of luck. Some of the other things that I'd like to do this year, I'm adding to my goals, as you can see. I don't have much time left to get things done. This is just kind of, it's something that Randy helped me make. It was kind of our idea. The city has different forms of keys to the city and over the different mayors, and what I'd like to do is get something standard, and we have, Randy and I have come up kind of with a unique design that goes in the key, and I'd like to see this somehow adopted at some point, and I'm only giving it to you now, not asking for passage. I'm just giving it to you, and then I'll bring it up the next meeting and give it some thought. But some of the stuff, some of the verbiage that on there needs to change a little bit. Mel says we can't always be politically correct. We have to be charter correct, and so it says alderman, not alderperson, so minor changes like that. So I'm hoping that I can get something doctored up. This comes to me in a PDF and I cannot alter it, so I'm trying to get this in a Word document form so I could actually get in there and type it. I thought I had one at one time. Excuse me. So, having said that, that's something that I'll be coming back to the council with. The other thing, yes?
I hope at some point that we look into actually having an actual key made that can be given out. They're really not that expensive. I mean, the initial setup is a little bit more expensive to actually set up to make the keys, and then after that, it's not that expensive.
This one is actually done on wood. I think you've seen it.
Well, I understand,
Yeah.
I understand that, but I mean, a lot of places actually give a key to the city. It's, and it usually comes in a little box, and they're really not that expensive. I think we should look into, at some point, having some made up.
In lieu of this?
In lieu of this. I mean, this is wonderful, too.
Well, I want something done, and I think the unique design inside the key symbol is it is of the
Very
falls.
nice, yeah.
And it's a lot of work, so, okay? One of the things I'm going to be doing, and it's not tonight, and again, just bringing up some of the stuff that I have in the works, is, was approached about lighting of the falls 2013, so I'll be seeking permission to, from the city to do some fundraising to cover that cost. Cost is the same as we paid last year, and I think you might have saw that. I won't mention a number right now, but, so I'll need some approval in a civilian status to go out and do some fundraising using the city's name. Got a couple pieces of mail I want to share, and it was Dear Mike to the city expressing their sincere thanks for the city's participation hosting the Lois McClure. I can pass that around if you want to see it. And also Aaron Innable, who is the Canadian consulate. A note from him, saying how pleased he was about the whole ceremonies and how Vergennes was involved, and so I'll pass that around to Ms. Jones as well. So, what am I forgetting now? I think that does it for reports. Now let's move on to, let's just double check. Oh, one thing I have not. During Vergennes Day, we had that large flag out in the fire truck. Well, it got greased up a little bit off one of the pistons on the ladder truck. So we had to send it down to get it clean. And Desiree Laundry was kind enough to donate the cost of cleaning that flag. The cost was $225, and they donated that. They're a very patriotic group, and we appreciate what they've done.
Should we send them a thank you?
That has to be done. I have not got to it yet. I'm hoping to try to do that, along with about several other things. So, public comment? Anything, sir? Okay. Old business, let's jump right into appointment of lister. Mel?
I have a list of one. It's a name that's familiar to you. Chris Bear, who's been given wards out here. He actually spoke to me a while ago when he had heard that position was vacant, and he's the Bearer. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Chris Bearer.
The Chris we know.
The Chris you know.
Okay, that's
Yes. So he, in essence, has thrown his hat in the ring and would accept an appointment of lister. I did send email out to Bill Paquette and Karen a number of months ago with Chris's name, and they would support his appointment. Obviously, appointed now, there is some limited work that does occur before town meeting day. But Chris would understands that if he's granted this appointment, his term runs out on March 5th or whatever. So, but anyway, it would at least give him some taste, and I would think that if we don't scare him away, then he presumably would run for that position on town meeting day.
Is there any conflict with the fact that he's an employee?
No, there's no, that's not an incompatible, there is a law about incompatible offices, and
Okay.
city employees is not.
Okay.
Is not one.
Good. Unless he was run for mayor.
That would be probably, that's in the
We can have
incompatible.
listers, which is a good thing.
Okay. That's why you ran, did you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I make the motion to appoint Chris Bearer for the lister's position.
second?
Second.
Bill seconds it. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. We've already started on this one tonight, but we're gonna get a little more in depth. And should we have a drum roll, Mel, at some point?
You could.
Okay, you let
Drum
me know
roll for
when, and
Publix.
I'll figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
First off,
Police station, selection
yeah,
site.
I do not, I think that it's fine to hold discussion on the sites, if you will, that we've been talking about. And I'm going to use the word position of the city council, or preference of the city council relative to those sites. So I'm just gonna blare it out. And the location that has been discussed in executive session, and I've had a number of discussions with the property owner. The property owner is Bruce Berry. Bruce owns what many of you know as Vergennes Auto, the property formerly owned by Scott LaFave. I really At this point, there is no purchase and sale agreement with Bruce. There certainly is an understanding, if you will, about that, and he, he is, I'll say, interested and comfortable with conveying that property to the city. Having said that, there's been some additional research that I've done, and to try to get I think that there has also been discussion about the fact that the lot was around 0.6 acres or thereabouts. And originally, when we were embarking on this effort, felt that the police station needed about an acre. There was 3 criteria: a piece of land of about an acre, not in the middle of a residential area, or preferably not in the middle of a residential area, and number 3, that it have direct access, and I'm going to say exclusive access, on a Class 1 or Class 2 road. So this site here, does not meet the acreage requirement, but does obviously meet the other 2 criteria. I did some additional research on the site, and what I was originally working from, the city council members have seen this. This is one of a portion of a construction drawing that I took out of Jones Records when they built the underpass project. And based on this construction drawing, it showed the property to, in essence, have right-hand corners. It was rectangular in shape with 90-degree angles. I knew that some of the land had been lost, if you will, with the underpass project. Having said that, I also have stuck my head way too many years into the surveys and the land records, and I had a suspicion that the angles of the property were not at right angles, and I had a feeling that they were a little bit skewed, and so I went into our map files and was to produce the survey of the so-called, many people, I can't say this any longer because it's something that's 38 years old, Mike. I don't think you can say the cornfield property any longer.
Sure you can.
Sure, it's okay. The cornfield property, 14.4 acres owned by Vermont Industrial Parks. And as you can see down at the bottom here, what is indicated as Torrey Preston. Torrey Preston was the original owner of this piece of property, purchased from the Canzior family, constructed a car wash on the site. Fast forward to, I'm not going to give you every property owner in there because there's many. Fast forward, today that piece of property is owned by Bruce Berry. I started playing around with the site plan, literally with scissors and tape, and a photocopier that you can select, zoom in, zoom out to get the thing to fit. I don't know how to run print shop, but I do know how to use a pair of scissors and tape. So anyway, and I put it on there, and it appeared that we were really shoehorning that property, the site plan, onto that parcel. And so I scheduled a meeting with Bill Townsend and PJ Carrera to talk about that, and went down there last week, and we started to put some of their surveys together and a survey of the Velco property, and it became fairly apparent that there's more land that was lost along the front of this building than what the construction drawings indicated. The construction drawings indicated that there was not only did it show it at right angles, that was uncovered, but the construction drawings showed that there was a loss of about 26 feet on the northern side and 8 feet on the southern side. So instead of the property, having 150 feet of depth, it had 142 feet of depth on the south side and 124 feet on the north side. But once you took the actual surveys of the road and overlaid those, as you can see on this drawing, there was a lot more lost. And you'll notice the 88.06 feet is the northern side lot line. So The size of what was originally thought that it'd be nice if we acquired some land from Vermont Industrial Parks is now at a point where we must acquire some land from Vermont Industrial Parks for this site to be a viable site. It just doesn't fit on there.
No, just
Sure.
so I'm clear.
Yep,
These two circles are the actual now? Where the
That's-
19932 is?
those two circles were our original lines.
So they are the legal lines as far as you can tell?
Those- that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, just want to
Yeah.
make sure that I knew what,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So, and what's encompassed in the dotted line
Yeah.
is what was lost?
is what was lost.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, what I've done, and Ziggy, really feel comfortable chiming in here at any time. What What I've done is taken my scissors and my tape, all right, and cut out this site plan and tried to figure out how much property we would need to acquire from Vermont Industrial Parks to make this parcel work. I will tell you that I'm trying to make it as little as possible. And I'm going to admit that might be short-sighted, but I just want to let you know that this is the way that I'm really approaching this. What is the absolute minimum amount of land that we would need to acquire from Vermont Industrial Parks to accommodate a police station on this site? Okay? And again, I really do not want to talk about money. And then I will suggest that we have a brief executive session at the end of the meeting where we can talk about money. Because obviously, the findings, if you will, about, what we thought the size of the property is and what we have later found, obviously, this is new information. I met with Bruce Berry yesterday afternoon. Anyway, like I say, I think that to talk about money and continued negotiations on a purchase and sale agreement, we would need to do that at the end of the meeting. But I'm happy to talk about anything else other than money.
My concern, before I talked to Mal, is that I was looking at this drawing, and so I was looking at roughly the scale, and having this building located at the time on this small lot, it felt like the building being as big as it was gonna be roughly like 45 feet off from the pavement where this little thing is. Now, my house, if you go by it, that's just about 45, 50 feet off the road, and I'll tell you, to me, that I don't like that, and I have a small building, but I can't imagine having this big, huge, nice-looking building only like 50 feet off the pavement. I think we need to go back a little bit and give it at least 80 feet off, so we have a little lawn in the front, so it would look much better, I think, than having it so close to the pavement.
One of my concerns, Mel, is impervious surface. If we're gonna have any issues, Act 250s, so that because of any little bit of runoff that we're gonna have if.
I believe the threshold on getting a stormwater permit is an acre of impervious surface, and so we won't meet that.
It is tight.
Yeah, we won't meet
It is
that
tight.
threshold.
When you look on this map here,
Yeah,
okay, this area in front of where the cars are parked in that gray area?
Yeah.
Is that building?
pavement,
That's pavement,
yeah.
okay? And this, between the parking on the right and the building, it's at approximately 20 feet, 10 feet or something? In there?
Well, a parking space is 22 feet long, so if you think that
So
space
it's
is
less than
about
that, it's
half
probably
of that.
15
Okay.
or less with the sidewalk.
I just thought if we're gonna talk to these people, maybe we should try to acquire what we really need, and if we're gonna go with this building, have a little, how would I say, class with it, just little nice front lawn, instead of close to the road.
And you're gonna wanna make sure that it's pitched the right angle,
Right,
so that the runoff goes to a ditch or drain versus head towards the building.
Is it possible, Mel, to do something like this with the new lines and potentially the Vermont Industrial Parks add-on? I mean, I know
thought I gave you one.
Well, you've kind of done it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not
Oh,
as
exactly.
clear as this, because you don't know
Right.
exactly where the road right of way
Yeah,
is.
I'm gonna agree. I kinda did it. Okay, kinda.
But if we can look at it that way, I think it might give us more
Yeah,
sense as to what is, what is gonna be relating to the
Road new lines?
V-Tran right away and.
I think a copy right here,
Okay.
right there.
So the building is gonna be parked.
Exhibit 22,
Yeah. But the road, you know where the road is, that's what.
I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I have the ability to. lift
cut
it
and
up
paste.
And, show what I'm doing there, and I think you could do that yourself. And I can tell you in the Northern Gateway District, the side, rear, and front yards minimum is 25 feet. All right, so there you can build your envelope around this lot, and, whatever, if we were to attain some property from Vermont Industrial Parks, from a building standpoint, we, in Vergennes, setbacks apply to buildings. They do not apply to driveways or parking spaces, right? So, for instance, if we were contemplating at some point the construction of an outbuilding where these cars are being parked, that building, based on today's regulations for that district, would need to be 25 feet. The other thing I mentioned to Ziggy that probably we should do is to go out and pound 4 stakes in the ground. Try to figure out what this, you see, the other thing in the Northern Gateway District is that you cannot have parking in the front yard in the Northern Gateway District. That's the regulations, right? Now, I don't know that that's saying, therefore, make the Northern Gateway District like the Central Business District, where you push the buildings right up to the road like Rite Aid is in Heinsberg. Right?
Well,
So-
that's
but I can
close
tell
to
you,
what I think that is.
there's an example of 2 very conflicting thoughts, okay? Zig saying, this is a big building, push it back. In Heinsberg, this is a big building, bring it forward, okay?
Well, it's interesting, I drove out there today
Yeah.
and looked around, and the way we have it now, it's more or less in line with Flaster's building in terms of their facades and their setback from the road, which I actually like, because it kind of, if we set it back, you're gonna see our building and you're gonna see his building right beside it, and this kind of gives it, kind of hides it a little bit, is
Right,
what it
right.
does, but
Right.
I
'Cause
think
you
there's
can
gotta be a
see
happy
here.
medium, and I think putting some stakes in the ground would be a good
Yeah,
idea.
I mean, you can see Flaster's building here, that, you're right, if
Right, I
you
did, I
push
looked at
this
that.
building,
too far back.
too far back, then
showcase
obviously
that
you're,
building.
what's that?
And then it'll showcase that building.
Right.
But I don't think he has enough out there anyway. I don't think they ever did have enough down there for any of those buildings.
They probably started out with enough, and as the road.
Well, yeah, the road got wider and
Yeah.
wider.
As the road grew, they lost their
Yeah.
Well,
frontage.
both of those parcels are basically the same, 150 feet of original parcels, were 150 feet of depth, 200 feet of width. And, obviously, I can tell you that Flaster lost that property, not Dan, but a prior owner lost some property. I'm gonna say not as bad as Vergennes Auto did, or Vermont Industrial Parks. I mean, it's not I also can't speak for Vermont Industrial Parks, but they own 14.4 acres, so if you lose 50 feet of your front yard, you still got 14 acres back there. But in the case of Vergennes Auto, that property was adversely affected by that,
Were they
by that
compensated?
taking. Yeah, I'm sure they were compensated. We have the judgment order. There's no money in there, but I mean, they get compensated.
Yeah.
Sometimes those orders speak about the money, but, they had to have been compensated. But it was Dennis Hogan that owned it at that time.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is this site, there was a time where I would have, a purchase and sale agreement has been drafted. It's been partially reviewed by the city attorney. It's not ready to come back to the city council at this point, and really, I mean, I could get it to you, but it really, until it takes more than that purchase and sale agreement for this site to be the site. I mean, we need to work through these other issues, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion, or we'll come back to this?
You know, I think relative to lot size, I mean, I suppose, Rennie, if the committee wanted to deal with lot size, the committee could, or the old city council could say, I mean, I've explained to everybody what I did. I've put this together representing the absolute minimum, all right? And, I mean, if there's, if there's folks here that feel that we should have more, then speak up and, but again, we don't own it. It's owned by Vermont Industrial Park.
Yeah,
Let me just tell you one thing about Vermont Industrial Parks. They, I actually even talked to them about saying, listen, this lot's too small. How about a chunk? How about an acre over to the right? Okay, and the answer was no. They really are not interested. And I understand that about.
I think it's good
giving
that
up
you told the board this, because we talked about that, but I'm glad they're willing to work with us, but they don't want to give us a lot.
They were not interested at all about giving up, 200 feet of their 400 and whatever the number is, 380 feet of frontage. They're not interested in that. However, both Bill and PJ, they'll work with the city. If the city needs, some additional frontage to make it work, they'll work with us.
Kim, the question is then I have
Yeah,
is
a little
that
bit
this
of
isn't gonna be parallel with the road, it's gonna be set at an angle from the road. Is
It'll
what-
be
That's hard to
however-
determine, that's what I'm curious
Where they're
about
gonna drive
myself.
stakes.
It'll be however you want, however it gets approved by the DRB.
Well, yeah, because my preference would be is to make sure it was parallel with the road.
I agree, yeah.
Because it would look so bad if it was cocked off at an angle where the back, one corner was back further.
Well-
It might not be I think, again, until you
Road
get
goes on
some,
an angle,
I
too.
think if you did a little bit of an angle, so it's facing more a little bit towards the underpass, the entrance, so when you came around the corner, you saw not the full front, but a little side view, that wouldn't be bad. To angle it the other way, so you were looking straight on at the end, I think that wouldn't look so well, but I think.
It's up for discussion.
Yeah, that, by all means, definitely, it's up for discussion, and we can drive some, or place some stakes and see where it goes
Well,
from there.
certainly, Randy, if you look at all these drawings, even though the base map is off, this has always been a shoehorning, okay? I mean,
Yeah, well, I don't-
Here's because we have assumed no need for acquisition from an abutting property owner. And so we've tried to make this work, and in some regards, Randy, it's that's causing the building to be not parallel with the road. Now we know we've got to acquire some land, and with acquiring some land, it gives you that flexibility to
Right.
get that building at the right angle.
Straighten it up.
I have a little concern, I guess, a very minor concern, that you show a beautiful building on a very small piece of turf, and next thing you know, you got hay behind you that's high or close to the building. I mean, I would like a little bit of lawn around it so that you do get some resemblance that it's inviting versus it's shoehorned into something that, if they're willing to work with us and we can pick up a little land, I'm not recommending that we go overboard and mow that whole 14 acres all the time, but just,
Well,
not unless we get money out of it doing it, of
Well,
course.
let me just state the obvious. The lot line on the south is Dan Flaster's line. That's not moving.
No, it's not.
The lot line on the north, as I said, Carrera is fine with giving up, whatever the amount of frontage necessary to accommodate this thing, all right? But I don't want to say that,
So are
I
we
can't
talking
speak for them,
50 feet?
that's No, you're
Or
talking
less?
probably 35, all right?
Yeah.
There probably can be some land in the rear, okay?
Yeah. Yep.
We had to keep that school bus that's back there?
Actually, the purchase and sale agreement makes reference to removing all personal property as being the responsibility of the, so the school bus, the plow, and the 1984 two-tone pickup truck, that would be gone.
But
And
for
I
a
think
small
the
fee.
Coke machine, I think, is
For a
gone
small
already.
fee,
Yeah.
you could probably acquire all that stuff. Okay, good. So we're gonna go into executive session in a little bit to talk more about that. Let's jump right to the city manager's report.
Yeah, I may speed through some things. Did Joe Kloppenstein bring up the survey at the last meeting? Because if he didn't, even if he did, I'll bring it up again.
Do it again.
Okay, because I'm not sure if there's a link on the city's website. Mike, I'll have to check with Judy tomorrow. But
Please do
anyway,
that.
Tara Brooks, on behalf of the Vergennes Partnership and the Recreation Committee, have put together a fairly brief survey. We have a paper form on the counter up in Joan's office, but you can access this through the Vergennes Partnership's website, and we just need to get so you
I
can
think
you
there's
can get
one
there.
there.
But
I think-
I'll just
but I'm
double
not sure.
check with Judy.
Well,
So
there were two surveys out there.
well,
One was done in the park. Because a couple of kids approached me at the end of the one afternoon and said, would you like to fill this out? And then there was the other one, which is the one I think you're talking about, that Tara had, that's online.
yep, it's a Survey Monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one was about proximity and walking and transportation issues. One was about recreational development.
The walking one was the college kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the
All
one
right.
that Joe
So what it
was.
was?
They're
Yeah.
looking for bike paths.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's what it was, because I got them confused in my head and, okay, as long as I know what's what.
So anyway, whatever we can do to point people in the direction of this survey, I can tell you that when Neil Curtis was the chairman of the Planning Commission, doing a couple of public forums to get input, there was a pretty lengthy questionnaire that he put out there. We ended up with 158 responders, all right, which is a lot to me for those kinds of things. And that's the kind of thing that we really need, certainly on the recreation side, because in most every instance when you're applying for any grant money, they wonder about how you came to the conclusions that you came to. And surveys and public forums, you've got to prove that point. So, you know what I'll do, Mike, if it hasn't gone to the board, let me get a link to you and get the link to you so that you can send it to the other members of the city council for members to do, and you can send it to whoever you want to send
I
to.
think she sent it to Judy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's that one. The sign is in the park. I think I keep forgetting, but anyway, the sign is on the information booth if you haven't seen it. It's a nice looking sign. I will admit that I had forgotten that, there was some discussion about maybe having some other information about make sure that you pick up a mutt mitt for if you're out walking your dog. This sign, I can tell you, it didn't have any room really to do a heck of a lot more. I mean, it's fine. The other thing I'm working on, we submitted our biosolids renewal. Obviously, our permit to dispose of sludge on state property ran out, and a new application has gone into the Agency of Natural Resources. We do not yet have our landowner agreement with the state of Vermont, but that's something that we're working on. Next item is some paving. I talked to Jim today. Lakeview Paving will be coming here soon to fix us up here before winter. And one of the things, Bill, the area in front of Black Sheep and all that where people were denting their cars or whatever, there's a real...
Isn't it weird?
Yeah, so what Jim's gonna do, they're actually gonna block all of that parking off and actually use a machine and put a strip right straight up
Okay.
through there so that it's not like some coal patch thrown the thing.
I
It's
had a
actually
business person
done.
bring it to my attention, I didn't really pay, I guess a lot of people, you know, they hit, it drops down on one side and they hit their fenders on the curb, the
Right,
granite
right.
curb, and damages the curb and damages their car. And
So we're gonna, you know, let's say a parking space 20 is 22 feet, you know, so you got this 22-foot line, about 16 feet of that line is gonna disappear, and it's too cold to do normal painting, but we have a machine that does spray paint, all right? So we'll have lines down there that hopefully will make it through the winter, all right? And then we'll do it correctly in there. And so anyway, that's the other, I mean, I wrote police station. I think I've spent a little time on this police station project.
For future consideration, since that was, if not the first Main Street project, but the second, it was either the first or the second, I think we're getting some deterioration of the brickwork versus the sidewalk is chipping off, and there's now spaces which I think people will begin to start tripping over. So that for future consideration, I think we should be looking at that for maintenance purposes.
Yeah.
Before we get into a real problem with it.
It's showing its age.
Age,
And
right.
you felt like it was just yesterday when they did it, but anyway,
it was
it's.
10 years ago though, just about,
Yeah.
12, yeah. It was, yeah, about, well, 2000, give or take, I
Right.
guess.
So that's
Nothing
all I
else?
had for special items, Mike. I know there's things I'm missing, but I can't remember.
Okay, well, we're not going for a few minutes yet.
Started in 99, but I think it was finished.
We'll go into new business, Vermont Gas, seeing as how we already covered CJ's. Mel, you wanna,
Basically, what I shared with you, the letter that came down with Vermont Gas, and there's a couple of these kicking around, which actually outlines the piping as well. I guess what I would suggest, Mike, is that we invite Don Gilbert and Steve, you know, back to the city council to talk about this project and you know, what is involved and how, you know, because obviously at some point there needs to be some kind of an agreement between the city and Vermont Gas as it relates to utilizing our street rights-of-way. So I just think that it's not too early to have Steve Wark, Don, and Don Gilbert, get Vermont Gas down here to speak to us, so that we have a little better
I
understanding.
would recommend, in light of our forum on information for the citizens, that we don't do it at the next meeting, and then we're probably only gonna meet once in December,
More than likely, yeah.
that we invite him to the December meeting,
Okay.
Yeah,
so.
what about this 45 days? I mean,
I
Well,
think that's just notice,
oh, okay.
notice, not necessarily, nobody has to do anything, I don't think, because that's the way I read it anyway.
And
I think it's a great project for Vermont,
It is,
and for Addison County particularly at this point.
yep.
natural gas is considerably cheaper than,
I know they
I'd
wanna
hook
run
up.
it down because they wanna hook on tie with it, go under the lake, under the lake and put it
Well, they
through.
wanna they're looking to go to Rutland, and as long as they were coming this way, that's where,
We're between Colchester and Rutland, is that what you're saying?
Yep,
well, they wanna go down through Middlebury, they wanna follow Route 7, that was their purpose,
I think Cabot would love to hook into that.
yeah.
oh yes.
Yes, they would. So, okay, anything else on Vermont Gas, Mel?
No, no.
Okay, item number C, discuss policies on allocations for reserve funds.
yeah, I'm not sure. Bill, Peter,
We talked about that, I mean, I saw that and I read it in the minutes. I think we decided there maybe were only 2 funds that didn't have a policy that might need one. I'm happy to look at them and take a stab at a draft, and maybe we can just bring it to the council and talk about it over a couple of meetings, so.
Yeah, Water Tower Fund being one of them.
Yep, and then there was one other one, and I don't have my notes here.
Okay.
Which one was it? I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I'll work on that, and we'll try and develop something, you know,
Yeah.
next couple months.
Okay,
In the meantime, I won't spend any money from the Water Tower Fund, which is fine.
Yeah, please don't.
Okay, I won't.
and you got police station funding, you gonna go?
What I, actually, what I wanted to do was, what I included in everybody's packet was some information that I got from the Vermont Bond Bank about what the annual payments would be. I had Robert, I think his name is, do a few different scenarios here. You can see in the order, there's a one and 3/4 million at, with a 15-year term, there's a 2 million at a 15-year term, there's a 1.75 million at a 20-year term, and a 2 million at a 20-year term. Obviously, the first year, I suppose if the project was on fast track, I mean, I can tell you this is a pretty ambitious thing to think that you're gonna get a project approved and built and sell the bonds and whatever, but you can take this whole chunk and move it out a year, however the timing fits. But the point being is the first year you pay interest only, and then after that you start paying bonds. So like, for instance, if you were looking at a $1.75 million bond at the 20-year schedule, the first year that you're paying both interest and principal, if you'll notice where it says November of 14 and May of 15, the sum is $136,700. Okay, so $136,000, represents about 7 cents on the tax rate. Every penny on the tax rate generates $21,500 or thereabouts. So I just wanted to share these numbers with you as it relates to the tax rate.
These are qualified interest rates and so on. Do they have any idea how they feel? Can you lock into a rate, or is it a variable rate?
These are locked. When you do the
when
bonds,
we do the bonds, it's locked in then.
and you
So
sell, they sell
probably
the bonds, are locked.
Interest rates have stayed low. They probably won't go anywhere but up. So if we wanted to do something and lock in, now might be a time to try and consider it, as opposed to 5 years from now maybe, but.
God,
Yeah,
I
these
hope
are,
it's done
yeah,
before
they're not
then.
flexible
Yeah.
rates. They
Okay.
sell these
That's
bonds
what I thought,
at
yeah.
these rates.
Okay.
They're purchased by people.
Okay?
Okay? I think Zig, at one point, when we're talking about what's the impact, and to me, obviously, this is not the entire puzzle. This is a piece of the puzzle, all right? We, right now, the police department is in City Hall, and there's no cost. I mean, the insurance is paid out of the administration budget. The electric bill is paid out of administration, fuel is paid out of administration. Any facility-related costs basically are we don't charge them anything for the trash bill. I mean, really, they're on their own. So obviously, there is an operating cost associated with this building. I think at one point I threw out this number about $12,000 for heat and electricity, and that's probably about right. All right, well, you can add 8 more to it if you include insurance and maybe some cleaning or whatever. So you'll get to $20,000. It's got to cost a penny to operate the building. And we could fine tune those numbers, but I think in round numbers, when you add, the key drivers are utilities and insurance. So I mean, it would.
And if
the
Bill,
first year is the
Bill
hit.
Wright,
Hey,
Bill Wright, as far as installation and whatnot, radiant
And low
floor,
maintenance,
radiant
interior
floor.
and exterior.
Yeah, there's, also, doesn't the state have a couple of places that use geothermal pumps?
Geothermal right now is not always effective. It's a longer payback for the actually costs. Yes, they do. They
Bennington
have-
Courthouse has geothermal.
Yeah, they have 2 type wells, wells where they just pump the water out of the ground and dump it and get the cooling out of that, and other ones where they actually recycle it using a water glycol mix.
Right.
Either way, it's
Let's plan on
expensive.
Following the example of the 50 Armory Lane, I mean, they did a whole humongous variety of things
Yep.
there, all the way from, the wood heat to
The pellet heat, yeah.
Yeah, and
And,
there's some of their recirculating stuff.
So
Insulation.
much of that's grant funded though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not reality.
Well, that's, that, there is, for efficiency stuff, there is monies available. Municipalities can tap into these funds. And then that's in a way to help us with our own cost. If we can tap into these funds towards the cost of the building, it's gonna benefit the taxpayers. It may be a longer payback, Michael, but if it means that they pay 60% of the cost or 50% of the cost,
They're not into geothermal, they're more into pellet heat, that sort of stuff, but they're not into.
Solar panels.
They're solar panels, yeah. They're into that, but not.
Little
not
windmill
geothermal.
behind the.
Careful,
Andy-
careful, I've been looking over at North End, that hasn't been spinning in a few days. I think a neighbor has had some effect on that.
Yeah, he called me.
He did?
Andy had a question.
Sorry about that, Andy.
Well, we should get a call.
My muffler's in the way.
No, I'm curious, how does the bond payment fit into the overall funding scheme? I know you were talking, I know Mel has talked about the water tower, I believe it was the water tower fund as a potential source of revenue to pay for it. How does this 7 cents potentially, if this one particular funding, the 1.75 for 20 years?
Well, I can't speak for Bill Benton, but I will a little bit. I think one of the reasons why he wants the city council to have a policy related to the water tower fund is to have that conversation and
I mean, it's definitely a source.
Okay, but see, my question, I don't want to necessarily put out something like, this is going to cost 7 cents, if that's not necessarily going to be the case. But you see what my dilemma is here. I want to be accurate in presenting.
I don't think those things have really been solidified.
I understand that, but not
yeah.
only me, but
Yeah.
perhaps your viewers would want
And-
a more complete discussion of that at this point.
And we would hope to have more, I would hope, by that informational meeting.
There are a lot of options that are out there, but none of us have really thought about the best way to bring them forward.
But
I
we're
think.
gonna have to present some of those options at that next meeting,
Yep.
because that's what it's all around, is dollars and cents.
Well, you know, obviously, if the city council wanted to present something, you'd want to start talking about it right now. If you want to hear, you know, if taxpayers come to this meeting and say, taxpayer comes here and says, we really understand why you're looking at a new police station. You've outgrown the one at City Hall that's incompatible. I mean, whatever, there's people that be coming here, but they're gonna say, 7 cents on my rate, is there any way that you can cushion that blow, all right? And if that's what you hear, if that's what you hear, then that obviously behooves the city council at the following meeting to say, we gotta find a different, we can't just go plunking 7 cents on this tax rate.
Yeah, and I agree totally. I don't think that that's gonna fly, but if there is a way we can cushion it and look at some of the revenue sources, then it can be an affordable project.
Yep, for sure. And the other revenue sources, I don't know if there's some way that we can pick up some of adjoining towns, if that, we do that without adding staff, or?
It's a whole nother conversation.
It is.
Conversation.
It is. But, you're looking for revenues, and your future plans are to be a certain level of staff, and it's like, what's the big picture, and how do we all get where we need to be and still be able to afford to live in Vergennes? So, okay. A couple more things that I need to mention. For those that have articles due for the City Voice, my wife will be sending out a reminder when the
She
due
did,
date
she
is.
did.
She did. She beat me to it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. She forgot to tell me
No,
what the date
I
was,
got
but
it.
21st?
21st.
Okay. November 21st.
And that's the 21st, too.
Yes.
No, it's not. Yeah, they get nasty.
Okay? Yes, they do. Addison County Solid Waste Management District has got their annual report out. So if anybody really would like to have a look at it, I have a copy of it.
I think we each got one.
Yeah,
You all got one?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it just came to, myself, but, okay, good. Any questions? Make sure you contact Cheryl. She's our representative on the board. So, good deal. One thing I've been hesitant about mentioning, because it's a little bit personal for an individual, but I think everybody on the board knows we have one of our employees that is ill, going through some pretty serious stuff, and so that hopefully he's in our thoughts and prayers for those that do offer that. But there is a source on caringbridge.com. You just gotta find and look up, and there's progress, daily progress that is posted on there for him.
Caringbridge.com.
Caringbridge.com. Nancy set up an account there so the people that wanna monitor Jim's progress. He's doing fairly well at this point, but
He's not working, is he?
yes, he is.
working, yeah.
He's working every day.
Yeah.
Yep, so,
No, I was just curious. that's
Yep.
all.
he is, so,
His treatments are, they're scheduled around work.
yep.
And
And-
that's the way Jimmy would want it.
Yep.
The only way.
And just one other thing, this is our corporate cuff muffler that we won and, for a year, and it sets on City Hall, and we've talked about it at several meetings. We just wanted everybody at home to be able to, share its beauty with you, so.
That's a cue to
That's just,
focus right in on the muffler.
that's just in case you don't make it to City Hall. Okay. But we have to give it back to them in the next year unless we win it again, so we're gonna try awful hard. I guess now we have to, get a motion to go into executive, or you got one more thing?
One thing, sewer and taxes are due on November 15th, so just want to let everybody
Friendly
know.
reminder,
Great.
that's this week,
That's right.
that's Thursday,
Thursday.
I know, great.
okay?
You know what?
Everybody at home, if you haven't, you've just been reminded. Okay,
Make said motion to go into executive
thank you
session.
for Mel, and we got a motion by Randy to go into executive session. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Yes,
Ziggy
just to
made-
clarify that the motion to go into executive session is relative to the negotiations of a purchase and sales agreement.
Thank you, Mel, for clarifying that. Okay, well, do we need Joan for any of that? If not, you'll let her know when we go out of executive session?
Yep.
Where are we doing this? Upstairs?